Who knows where it'll go?
Not exactly
Hmm.
my best.
I really don't give a shit what I look on like on Zoom.
Same. Cheers to that.
I left my water in the other room. Happy 250 America.
Mm. Happy July 4th, July Independence Day, alien invasion.
I think any of us would welcome anything right now.
Yeah, I think so. I want to feel like your glasses look.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Or the tinsel in my hair. Right?
The tinsel, that's the one. Yeah,
Phoning it in for years now.
phoning.
Phoning it in.
Yep, phoning it in. Holding it for a lot of people doing that though.
I don't know if I am. I don't know how you see that. And if I am, aren't you? And if you are and I
Yeah,
am, isn't everybody?
we all are. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Instead of it being up to a small group of avatars, it's spreading out through the population at street level. So as it accelerates, more people join that void of, I don't know, WTF.
Yeah, a friend of mine just was like, social media is just awful. And, I feel worse since I've been back on. I'm like, well, fucking leave, then go. Like, number one, social media brings a transparency and it's sped up this whole momentum faster than anything could have. So if you're feeling horrid, it's because you haven't I don't know, curated your own algorithm and you haven't wheeled it with intention and love. If you're feeling yucky, it's like every time I feel yucky, I am fully aware it's my own shit. It's my own shit and it's what I'm allowing in. And, it doesn't,
That's a good, yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to feel that way, but well, I think some people resist going there, understandably, but it's where all the power is as well. It's where the power is, isn't it? You've got the power. I think powerlessness is a big foundation layer of this system that's starting to collapse. Feeling powerless.
right. And then there's a freedom in knowing you hold all of the power. And you
Yeah,
always did. But even those of us who know we hold all of the power and we have the understanding of how this whole thing works, it's not easier. It's not easier for a single one of us that I know of right now. Not right now.
at
We
all. In fact,
can
it gives,
we can hold all the knowing of sovereignty and self-responsibility, and we can hold it all. Doesn't It hasn't made anything easier yet.
in fact, it makes it harder in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, because it isolates you from the rest of the people who don't
Yeah,
believe that, who don't know to believe that. Like, it's
yeah.
extremely isolating.
And it gets so that the struggle with it is all you feel for quite a while. It's all like you can go through long periods where it's just all struggle. But um,
Yeah, come to the happy part, Gareth, please.
well, yeah, well, that's the thing. Like holding the space for the change you want to come in while that process actually happens. Because first you've got to actually allow room for it. Then you've got to go through the process of visualizing it and there are stages because so much of how we operate in the world's coming from a conditioned place that is designed to stop that very process. And the big one is expectations. We have an expectation, we form a picture of what we want. Then let's say we want to change our life from whatever you describe it as now to one that represents freedom from that. Let's say you've got a vision of a house on a hill with, you keep chickens and you've got a kid and a husband or a wife, a picture. I'm just using a picture. It could be anything. Maybe it's career related or passion related, whatever. And, but we've got an idea of what getting there looks like. And quite often, usually that destination that we vision, if you is more like an archetype of a place. So the form that it takes to the form that will really deliver what we want us to the place where we're free can look very different to what we think, and especially the process getting there. And of course, that's when you've got a whole lot of beliefs about self-doubt in there riddled through you. So you'll interpret that as being you being wrong or life being wrong, when really that's got nothing to do with it. It's exactly what needs to happen in order for you to get where you want to go. The big blessing about the time we're in now is that people, once you wake up to the truth on the scale we're waking up to, you can't go back.
No,
You-
obviously no. But when you said a minute ago, opening yourself up to the life that you want, I've opened myself up so much. I have so much room, and yet nothing's happening. But I'm not really like, I don't know what to do to make anything happen. Like, I look at things and people who are doing all the things that I think that I want, and I think I should be doing them, but I don't have any inspiration or drive to do any of it. So I've opened myself up. My life, I guess, on one level is pretty full, but I'm alone in my house on July 4th and not receiving any response from family. And I don't know, I still look crazy, I'm sure.
It's pretty rough.
It's
Yeah, it's pretty.
heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching to understand that everything in our lives was preordained, pre-planned. Every one of us is serving everyone else's highest, and it just doesn't feel like it.
Mm.
It feels fucking miserable.
Yeah, yeah, and there's no easy answer or quick answer. Although at the same time, it's extremely simple as well. That's the infuriating thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very it's very simple how to move with life in the way that life was intended to move. However, what's in the way of that has in us is there's so much tied to it emotionally, so much of our identity and emotion, and there are layers to it that are old, old, old. And it's not just in our own personal life anymore. It's the human race, because the human race is affected by this. It's not just individuals, it's the whole human race. There's a lot of ancient stuff coming up through everybody from that. And it's the same pattern, because again, it's all very simple. Even though the complexity of the form that trauma can take is massive. It's as big as the universe in a way. There's all sorts of different ways life can be hard, and then we've all got our own version of it. And there's lots of different stories we can all tell, but ultimately it's very simple and very similar. It's the same thing. And fear and doubt and how it runs everything. So getting out from under that, you can't do it. You can only be undone by the question, yeah, but what really what's reality really, or what's going to work? And that's, I think, the hard part. we're so programmed to be someone and do something about every problem. And this isn't a small problem. You know, you're talking about people ready to end their life because they can't take it anymore. But how do you fix that? Like in reality, how do you fix that? The world's got to transform. But how does the world transform? Or what is the world? It's people. It's
And
just,
then you're taught, no, the world doesn't have to transform at all. You do. And but
yes.
it's not, it's like this entire thing is an inside job. But it's a co-creation. It's absolutely an inside job, but
Yeah. The
it
inversion's a
does
co-creation.
require, hmm,
I was just going to say the inversion is a co-creation between us and those of the interference, and reality is a co-creation between us and our source.
our
And we're
source. Yeah,
swapping from one mode of being back to the natural one.
right.
And
But in the
you can't.
meantime, but in the meantime, you're living in the inverted world.
Mhm.
So there is an absolute level of the external world has to transform for you to be able
At some
to
point.
as well. Like it goes hand in hand, but there's a lot of shame around
God, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of shame being sold even in spirituality that it's
Mm,
all an inside job, it's all up to you. Well, yeah, yeah,
mm,
but
mm.
things got to change. Things, and then there's, you say that and it's like, you be the change. Like, you know what? I did change. I change on a dime. I did a 180. 7 years ago, I stopped in my tracks, and 7 years later, I don't know. Life is
You feel like
abundant and
you've,
beautiful, but yeah,
well,
I
let's
also
talk to
haven't
that. Yeah.
moved.
Mm. So you feel like you've got nowhere in
In one
one
respect,
sense. Mm.
absolutely.
But then
Absolutely.
in another sense, you can bring up examples of the opposite, which is almost as frustrating, isn't it?
Isn't it? Because if you've done all that work and you've made all that headway and you have,
Why hasn't it
you know,
changed? Mm.
yeah, why is my family still ignoring me?
Yeah.
Like,
See, that's look, that's the thing. My own personal, and I mean, look, I mean, my wife and I, we're struggling too. We're struggling like everybody, even though we know what's going on. It's still being written in real time, and it's still real. It's very real. I mean, the whole point of being born into a life, which millions and millions and millions of us all around the world, tens of millions of people all around the world have a life directly about breaking apart the inversion at the leading edge of this transition, which is intense, tough, and there's lots of different versions of it. But we're all writing it in real time as well, and the way you do that is to feel the feelings that have been running us for thousands of years without acting on them the same way anymore. But what's the
yep,
alternative? And that's tough. That's tough, but
yep.
that's what burns it up. And
I feel the feelings 24/7 and I
so
don't do anything that I normally would have done. I
that's
don't do
right.
a single thing I would have done previously to make them go away. So
Yeah.
there's some, I don't know, pride maybe isn't the best word, but there's some acknowledgement of what I've done and the changes I've made. I would have buckled at the guilt and the pressure. I would have buckled and sold myself out to have their approval and their love back in my life. I would have, at the sake of their comfort, given up my own, and I haven't. Not that I'm
That's
any more comfortable here all by myself in my sanctuary, because I sure as shit am not comfortable at all. But at least I'm not selling myself out anymore. I know,
you know,
I know.
then
It
that's the
still
foundation
hurts.
integrity. I mean, that word integrity is pretty loaded, but what does it mean? It means being true to yourself, I think, personally, on some level, the foundation
Yeah,
layer. And even if you don't know what that is, there's something in you that knows you've been living a lie and you don't even fully know what necessarily, when I say you, I'm not talking about you, we, us.
Oh, I know. I know.
We don't necessarily know what the alternative looks like or feels like because we've never really had a chance to live that way before. But
No.
at least we start with the start that whatever this false life is, that's how it feels. It's a false life. I've got no idea what the real life is, but it's a false life. And one of the big strategies, those of the interference, the others, whatever you want to call them, have used is pushing us to survival by the financial system and like all the stuff they're putting around the world in society to try to collapse it and make it as hard as possible for people to function. It keeps you in fight or flight, where you're all the higher order thinking. You have to prioritize. So having this feeling of wanting to elevate your life and connect in a more spiritual way, let's call it spirituality. You may not even see it that way, but let's call it a higher version of life. And then you've still got to pay the bills and pay the rent. And there are lots of people in Melbourne, where I live in Australia, who are homeless, who've been pushed out of homes by the rents going tripling in 8 years. Young people in my kids' generation who can't function because it's very hard to take this
Heartbreaking.
stuff. And that's what it's done. It's designed to keep you focused on just getting, I'll sell out and get that job as a teacher in a school where even though I know it's designed and it's horrible and it kills everybody and you burn out, but at least I'll be able to pay the rent. Then you pay the rent. Then you hit the wall with that. Then you got to go back out again. Then you got the problem with money. And it just keeps
Right.
you stuck in that way. And but the thing is, the big problem is it's not working for them. It's not working for them. And that's hard to quantify for all of
How?
us.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say I need you to tell me why it's not working
We're
because
too
everyone's
strong.
feeling squeezed by this. We're too
The way
strong.
the way Tom put it, they've never been able to break your human spirit. So they're trying to break our spirit, fifth dimension, consciousness, our connection to that higher, that truth of who we are that's elevated, can see above it all. There are too many people, like I said, once you hit the wall at this level, um, it's one thing in the 60s to go through spirituality and to have an awakening. But when you're doing it now, um, the illusion that the world was working the way it was still there, but it's
Was
not there
still
anymore.
there. It's not there anymore.
And no one can deny it. It's getting harder and harder to deny it. And I think that's only going to accelerate quickly. The way the arc, when I was feeling this way, and I don't know, I felt this way yesterday, believe me. But I don't know, a few years back, I think it was
I was kind of
2017.
okay yesterday. Today I'm really black. Black, dark as pitch.
Yeah,
Anyway,
maybe. Oh, well, I mean, that's when they showed me the spiral. You're not going around in circles, you're moving in a spiral. So that feeling tone, like I said, is very simple. It's all coming from the same problem. So of course it makes sense if you just imagine that we've got this suppressed emotional energy starting from when we were one, two, pardon me, three, all the way up to now. So there are thousands of experiences, all diverse types of experiences in our life history that all carry that same core motivation of self-doubt and trying to manage yourself in the world. And then the consequences of that, of course, you just make the problem more physical. So there are lots of different versions of the pattern, but the feeling tone's the same. So it makes sense that once you lift the lid off with the question, what's the truth? Because that's what happens. You stop suppressing yourself. First, you've got to release all that negative energy, which feels and looks like the thing you're trying to get rid of. Well, this is what I mean about expectations. We think that if we're feeling it and thinking it, we haven't got rid of it. But the process of being pulled back to who you are, which is clear of all of that, is it means letting it
is
come up and
happening in
go
it.
and go.
Is happening in it. It's
So
happening in what looks like inversion. Like looks like the opposite of what you want to be doing.
exactly, because we can't. The Arcturians told me years ago, we cannot do it for you. You cannot go around it. You must go through it. So that's what they mean back through all those experiences. We've formed our worldview around with this new question, and that's what releases it. And there are too many people doing that, and it's accelerating. So yeah, it feels futile. It feels like nothing's changed because you're feeling the same. It's like following when you move through life and you're not moving with the inversion. You call what I call following the golden thread. You know, your heart knows, you register, you step into a direction, and then your mind receives what it needs to like a career change or a moving house or that well, it can be lots of different mundane things, but you don't plan it all ahead. You only see the journey one step at a time. Well, going back, getting the clear of the false experience we've had of life, it looks the same. Um, it's released in layers.
I want more help. I
Yeah, I think
want more
everybody
help
does.
in the physical. I want more help.
Yeah,
I can't stand this.
I
I
think
want more
everyone's.
help. I want more help for everybody. You describing the people pushed into homelessness in Melbourne, and like
Uh,
it's so
it's disgraceful.
heartbreaking. It's disgraceful. And then, there's me going around like, love everybody, see everybody as the same product of the victim perpetrator thing that's been happening for thousands of years, and forgive them all, forgive them, they know not what they do. You can't know that you would do anything differently given the same circumstances that they had. Like, you can't know anything that isn't direct experience. Oh, speaking of direct experience, like, I don't know, it's just all heartbreaking. It's so gross. So a couple of days ago, this daredevil couple apparently climbed the Empire State Building and put a flag up there, and he proposed to her. Did you hear about this?
No, no,
Oh,
I
it's a
didn't.
load of shit. It never happened. Unless I'm there in person. It's made the news everywhere, and all the normies, when everyone's using the image of the black flag and putting their own memes on it, like nobody ever landed on the moon, or dinosaurs are a cover up for dragons, right? Like they're using the image of the two couple on the, I guess, the antenna part of the Empire State Building with their black flag, which their message was beautiful. It was that quote about when the power of love is more important than the love of power, like the world will, that quote. Everyone knows that quote. And so,
Yeah,
like, everyone's using it for a meme to be funny, and all the normies are like, how could you do that? This was the message the world needs. And it's like just this toxic positivity. Number one, if I don't see it with my own eyes, it didn't fucking happen. So number two, there was an X post, Twitter, whatever. I don't have Twitter, but Lori sent it to me because a friend sent it to him about, I think it was from Lori, about first of all, the mind control involved in all big news events, happenings, the emotional manipulation behind everything they show us. Like, they're already showing beaten down, desperate, hurting people this, and we're supposed to feel like the hope from this dude and his now fiance climbing the Empire State Building to share love, blah, blah, blah. It didn't happen. Anyway, in the Q post, they talk about it being done on a green screen, and that it was actually JFK, John Kennedy Jr., and Carolyn Bessette, his wife, doing it, because there's a whole bunch of us who think they're going to make a big grand return. I'm all for it. Whatever. You know how I feel about
yeah.
Q. I love Q, and
Q's great. Yeah,
I'm also
yeah,
not completely attached to any of it. I just love
exactly.
it. I know it makes me feel beautiful and
Good
happy and
way to be.
hopeful, right? But this whole thing is, if it if I don't see it with my own eyes, as far as I'm concerned, it didn't fucking happen.
Yeah, direct experience. Yeah.
Direct
It's okay.
experience is key to all of it, which we can't have direct. That's why this is an inside job. We cannot have direct experience for 99.9% of the things in our world. That's why it's an inside job. All you can truly know or control is
Hmm.
your own field, your own experience, your own life, your own
Yep.
heart, your own response. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
And stay with that. Yeah, that's that saying, true north,
Yeah.
direct experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clean
Because
up your own yard. Take care of those you love and all. But then I get tripped up because I can take care of those I love virtually and I like in my new communities, this whole world I've built for myself in these 7 years of hell. But I can't on one level I'm not taking care of the ones who were my birth family. So it's this weird, I don't know if juxtaposition is the word.
yeah,
You know what I
that's often the
mean?
case. That's
Yeah.
often the case. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the core relationship within your family, it's the oldest one we've got, and it's where all our modeling came from. So it's often, especially when you're going through this kind of transformation, you're talking about a personal transformation that would transform the entire family system. So anything that bigger change tends to get expelled or you pull away, and then that connection finds like minds which aren't in the family system. But the thing is, bringing that back into the family is what will play out because what's going to happen, and it is going to happen, is the system around us will start to collapse in a way that points to we were right. And I mean, that's again, a lot of people want, we want, I told you so moment with our family. It's not kind of really about that, but their resistance to this phenomena where the collective consciousness suppressed energy of this pain and suffering that we've all gone through for thousands of years is coming out on a global scale. Their ability to ignore the reality of that.
In their face is leaving.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in
But
Australia,
then go on.
it, it, in Australia, there's the push to carry out the plan because they've lost control of the timing. That's the big thing. That's the big thing with consciousness of the human race waking up. It's our own question that's running the timing. What's the truth? And our willingness collectively to hear the answer, not edit it, which is a which is a growth process. We're going to naturally try to edit the answer to fit our expectations, even though we've asked what's the truth. So we're getting that dynamic pulled out of us gradually over time. A measure that you haven't been going around in circles is that you can hear something you heard 5 years ago in a very new way because you're able to receive more of it. You're able to receive more of the meaning of it, but you're able to connect it with other things. And that's that ability to synthesize knowledge, put two and two together, that it gets expanded by this process of getting all the residual energy out of the way, holding the space so that your emotional intelligence deepens, but your ability to see things objectively goes up as well. Because situations that used to trigger you intensely don't do it as much anymore. So there's
No,
more available. But so that's accelerating. So politically, the dark side of the fence has to push harder to kind of make it happen and speed it up. So it's getting more and more obvious. And in Australia, the kickback against the policies that are being coming out is is unifying. So it's having the
right.
opposite effect. They need to keep us scattered, but it's starting to unify people. So
Why when I talk to people, their direct experience, much like my own, is that nobody in their field, direct field, family, friends who they've lost is coming around to that. Why when I talk to you, I hear there's a great unification happening and their fuckery is cementing the oneness that we all are, but none of the people I know around the world are experiencing it in their own direct lives. How am I supposed to hold on to the hope of what you're saying if none of us are seeing it?
I know directly in your own direct life. Yeah, well, there's more going on under the surface with everybody than you can see,
Okay.
firstly.
I
And
was
secondly,
kind of thinking that
censorship.
was okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it,
I don't mean to put the weight of that question on you. I
no,
don't
we need.
expect you to have all the answers, but I hear the hope in what you're saying. I feel that it has to be changing because these conversations are happening everywhere with perfect strangers, but they are not happening with anybody I personally know or am related to or have lost in the last 7 years.
Mhm. And that's the big problem, that the people who are willfully ignorant that there's something to some merit to what we're saying have, because there are too many people connecting on this level, and the censorship, the direct censorship of the control of information, which is how this whole problem's been created in the first place. Take control of the strategy of divide and conquer, take control of the narrative, generate problem, reaction, solution. And it's the reactionaryism that makes the whole thing work. The loosh they talk about. That's really
Yep.
our, we react before we think. COVID,
Yep.
classic example. So there's still the illusion that they can hang on to their sense of reality and there's no merit to what we're saying, but it's breaking apart. And there are things going on. The court case happening in Holland right now
In
with
Holland,
COVID.
yeah. Yep.
What I can't remember her name just off the top of my head. Um, she was the head of a big department in the US, and she left, and as she left, she declassified something like 2 million documents, which have the entire COVID money trail, all the documents, emails, the proof basically of what Fauci did and Klaus Schwab and like all the connectedness. So the evidence isn't the problem, and the inevitability of it hitting the mainstream as well isn't the problem. And what's going on in Israel is a big part of that. So they won't be able to manage that cover story effectively enough soon to handle the normies. At some point, it's going to break apart. It's going to be too
Yeah,
obvious.
I understand that. I understand that I do, but circling back to that whole Empire State Building thing and, being John and Caroline on a green screen is the whole thing, according to not necessarily QAnon, but whomever, is that the media, well, Tarot by Janine says this too. The media is controlled by the white hats at this point. And
Yeah.
so if they're controlling it and it's a slow drip process, why can't they go faster? And everyone's like, well, they don't want everyone's head to explode and like them take themselves out. I'm like, why not? Like, if death isn't even real and that's what we're all getting to, rip the fucking band-aid off. If you're in control of this shit now, if we all know we've won and people are in hell emotionally and in some cases physically, like hurry up, like
Well,
fucking hurry
that's what I'm
up.
saying. It's at some point very soon. I think within the next over the next 12 months, you'll see this start to really break apart in the physical, like mundane reality. But if you push people, because of the reactionaryism, I mean, we're not talking about people cracking it because someone cut them off in traffic, reactionaryism. We're talking thousands of years of embedded trauma within the human race and family systems. And if you push, because remember the worldview, the human nature, Tom said, you insist you have a human nature, our worldview. Oh, well, what you can do, what can you do? That's human nature. What you can do, that's life. It's a way of writing it off. And that worldview exists to manage the trauma and keep it away. So this change won't let you do that. Now, if you push people too far, too fast, they'll react against the solution. And that has to be handled very, very carefully.
Delicately,
Very
delicately. Okay.
carefully.
Yeah,
You got, like it's like
this is
taking someone who's been in the special forces, and I know through someone personally was going out with someone who used to be in the SAS in Australia, who probably went through Afghanistan, so traumatized that he can barely function. Now, this is one of the most elite soldiers in the world who could, yeah. Anyway, um, if to get, you could say, well, let's just heal him. Let's just put him in the situation where he sees the truth. But the problem is, it would. the impact of that moment would destroy him. So you haven't achieved anything. So to get people to see the truth while they're in the middle of that much intense trauma, how do you do that? You've got to do it in a very controlled
Yeah.
way so that they can meet each step and normalize it. It's like the reverse of the way the deep state have operated. That's what they
Hmm.
do. They put us into a situation that has a lot of shock. They have to manage it very carefully. If they pushed us too far, too fast, we'd react back against them. It would be too obvious. So they'll put us in a situation and then wait and let it normalize and manage the media around it. Then the next step will come in, and the next step, and the next step, until bang, COVID.
Yeah.
So the whole 20th century was like that. That's
Yeah.
social engineering. So that's why you can't just come in there and say, like if the ETs landed, they could fix it all. Yes, but what would happen to a lot of people who have to deal with a paradigm shift so dramatic that
Yeah.
every single traumatic experience they hold has to be seen all at once? It can't happen that way. And so a lot of people don't really understand that. It's not just a matter of hearing the answer to a question. It's a matter, you've got to have the
Yeah.
question embedded in the right way to be able to hear it.
It's it's one of my favorite phrases, which is funny, but it's above my pay grade. That's why I can't that's why I can't possibly understand
Hmm.
why it feels like they're doing it as slow as molasses. It is above my pay grade. It was just kind of like the awakening in 2021. I'm thinking of my friend John. He and I were zooming the other day, and we were talking about attachment to our stories, and if I have to pay him $1 every time I say my awakening. So he's hilarious. He's hilarious. Um, so, but the awakening for my experience was so abrupt and so sudden, but I welcomed it on a level that I haven't found in too many people. Like I've allowed it to completely undo everything on a level, and I think that's where in lies the, I don't know what it is, if it's discomfort or if it's like really irritation, an irritation with watching people live their lives. And hear me out. I want everybody to be happy and live their lives. But watching people who are awake partake in celebrations and drinking and shopping and living their lives. And again, this comes back to judgment, right? Like, who are you to judge anyone doing anything in this utter shit show? But there's this level of maybe it's envy that I can't do those things. I mean, I
Mm.
guess on one level I am with, the refinishing and the reupholstering of the furniture or the events that I go to looking for solace and comfort and community. But day to day to day to day, it's got to be judgment. I'm just like, how the fuck can you partake in this absolute falsity when we're suffering? Like, what are you even doing? But I don't
Now
even know what
this,
I'm doing.
well, what you just described and what I was talking about are one and the same. See
Yeah.
how do you get to the onto the other side of that thinking? How do you get onto the other side of it? First, you've got to acknowledge it exists in the right spirit, rather than just saying this is right. You're not doing that.
Right. There's no this is right, this is wrong. That
But you're
doesn't
letting
exist in my
yourself.
world anymore.
Yeah. When you argue with what is, you suffer. The fact is, you feel that way, and you also are coming into a mode of being where you kind of know better. However, well, you haven't really embodied it yet. But how do you get to the point where you do? You've got to let life take you through a series of
Yeah.
experiences which are precisely engineered to get you onto the other side of that for real in your own direct experience. So you're willing to hold all of that and still have the question, what's the truth? That right there is the transition for everyone.
It's
That's
so
why it has to be managed so carefully because someone could come in and say to you, this is the correct way to think about that. But you haven't experienced the process where you can receive it fully. You can hear it on an intellectual level,
Mhm.
but you're still living in the paradigm that before you haven't actually changed anything. And that's the human race. We have to live through. That's
What?
why the Arcturian said you can't go around these feelings, this thinking. You have to go through it and see the truth on the other side, that it isn't what you think. First, you've got to realize everything you think is not above question. That's
And what do
fucking
you mean
intense.
I haven't changed anything? I've changed everything.
I'm not talking
How
about you. I'm
dare
talking
you?
about
I know, I know.
you from yeah,
How
you.
dare you?
And that's the
I,
value of it. You zero in on a point of view. What's really going on here?
yeah.
I've isolated myself, and when I see people having fun, I feel like that's wrong, and I want to tell them to stop it. But something, I'm willing to question it. Now, there are a
Hmm.
lot of people who are going through this transition who aren't willing to question it. I know what the problem is. It's you thinking that, doing that.
Right.
So the solution to the problem of the world is to change everybody, which is the problem. It's
In
the
the
very
first
same
place,
problem.
it's the
How
very
does
same
every
thing.
human on the planet get out from under that mind control, victim perpetrator? That's what's being managed by this psyop, this counter psyop. So what I'm seeing the white hats doing is using the strategy that the deep state have always used against them to out them. So it'll look like, for instance, the US government, elements within the US government are bringing in policies, or they've gone in a direction which makes it look questionable. Like, hang on a minute, who are these guys working for? When really the strategy underneath is to get the deep state to set up a whole network to manage it and then track it. And instead of getting a small group by because this is what the deep state do. They'll have a fall guy who can take the fall. The Nazi thing was a classic example. We think they've solved the problem by executing the Nazis, when really that was just about making us think that the problem's been solved, while the network went bang all around the world. And we were distracted by the media thinking that World War II ended and we won. I mean, Independence Day in the US is a classic example of that. So,
Yeah.
how do you get the network? How do you get that first layer out of the way so that you can get the very bottom layer and stop them doing it? Well, you've got to trick them into thinking they can do it, and then grab the whole thing in one go. They're doing it right now with the military and the Pentagon. You track the funding, you track all the emails, you track everything. You also do the same thing with social, uh, the society strategy with social engineering around the world with every person and what they're trying to do with immigration, blah blah blah. It does. You've got to pull it out by the roots, which means you've got to see the entire thing first. So that process can look like which side of the fence is everybody on. It's very confusing, right when we're all going through this internal feeling of being very confused. So it's very triggering,
Yeah. Boy, is it
but
ever.
it's the only way to do it. And it serves a purpose. And again, that's where faith comes in, because the whole thing's built on doubt and fear. The what ifs that we keep coming back to that just don't go away. And everything we see around us just seems to reinforce that nothing's happening or that it's bad. Then we get these moments that light up.
Yeah.
But the fact that so many people are at a point where they're willing to hold that process and still have the question, what's the real truth, is destroying the deep state's ability to function.
God,
And
I hope so.
yeah, well, a very, I think personally, by the middle of 2027, things are going to look very different.
Why
I've been
not
shown a
the end
pattern
of
with,
2026? Like, fucking seriously.
well, the 7 year,
I keep hearing June, July, August, huge. And then fall, huge. Like, everyone's like, this is huge. When is it
man, it
huge?
looks like,
When?
now this is another thing. Yeah, it looks like because as soon as you hear that, you have an idea or an expectation that forms
Yeah,
of what
man.
it's going to look like. And of course, that expectation doesn't get met, but it doesn't mean that what was huge didn't happen. It just means you don't
Right.
see it clearly yet.
Yeah.
But
No, I know that too.
the impact of it in the substrata of how our civilization operates, that's what's got to be hit first. Can I just bear with me? I've had too much coffee.
Yeah,
Sorry, everyone, we
pause.
don't edit either.
Yeah, I do. I pause.
Totally
So,
lost the thread.
it doesn't really matter. I've been doodling and I drew you.
Wow, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad.
The doodle.
I
I'll use that on my screensaver.
had to go. I'm glad you had to go to the bathroom. Ye of little bladder. I uh
Mm,
I got a coffee. It's like 7 o'clock at night. Everything's backwards in my world. It's like I don't get up in the morning and I usually don't eat until at least 11 a.m. and I never have coffee unless like I meet Lori out or something. But I just
right.
made a coffee at 7 o'clock at night. Caffeine doesn't affect me. It doesn't wake me up. It's just a habit. It's not even a habit. It's
Really?
just something I do. It doesn't touch me. I can go to sleep in 5 minutes after drinking a coffee.
Geez, I wish I could.
No.
Yeah.
Well, if you listen to Jason Christoff, coffee is a part of the mind control. And he's right. It's in every movie, it's in every TV show.
It's all
It's
over.
a big part of the mind control. Big, big, big part.
Kind of prop us up to make it easier to survive the inversion. So we keep doing it.
Yep.
The
Yep.
Colosseum in Rome was all about that.
Yep.
Give
We
them a
are modern
false.
day, our NFL and our NBA and our
Mm, mm,
NHL is modern day bread and
yeah.
circuses.
We live this failure-ridden life so we can have a, we can live vicariously through other people's success and get a hit of it.
I just watched a movie. I'm late to the game on all movies because I don't watch anything anymore, or different things interest me today than what would interest me, 7, 8 years ago. But I just watched a movie, I think from 2011, called In Time with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. And it
Mm, never
was
heard of it.
surprisingly good about and very apropos for what's happening right now, and the enslavement basically of humanity. They figured out how you do not age beyond 25 years old biologically, but everyone has an internal clock that at age 25 you have you're on a clock now, and you pay for everything with time, and you can swap time with people by touching wrists. So there's a place called New, I can't remember where the location is. It's fictional in the movie,
Mm,
where all the elites, as Janine would say, the deletes live. They have, millions of lives. You're immortal if you can afford the time. But it's Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried, and it's was surprisingly entertaining and surprisingly good. And they became kind of modern day Robin Hoods and were giving time to all the commoners, all of us. And they just, and the powers that shouldn't be, the elites, the deletes, when they were giving all the commoners all the time, they would just increase the cost of everything. So everything they were doing, right, to help us, they were countering by making it even more expensive and more unattainable. It was a good
mm,
movie. I would totally
mhm.
suggest it. I would totally recommend
Right.
it. I mean,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've not heard of it.
In Time. I think it's from 2011.
In time. Make a note of that. Um, what were we talking about before the break? Okay. Just the general.
The apocalypse and the end of the world as we know it, and the utter despair and hopelessness.
Oh,
No, maybe
just the light, just the light,
just the light stuff,
hearted
just
stuff.
not nothing big.
Nothing major, no.
No, I don't know. Um, you should get in the habit if we have to pause the recordings, write down a word or something that reminds you where you
Mm,
were.
should do that. Yeah. Mind you, I should do a lot of things. So that's the
Yeah,
other
I
thing,
was just
fear of
gonna
failure.
say.
That just feeling like a failure and futile and hopeless is bringing up a lot of stuff for everybody. And that's tough. But, and I know I'm going through it too. But the feeling does pass. And if you can just let the feeling be there and let the story be there without just believing it all wholesale, again, you'll go into believing it and feeling it. And it's like it's got to express itself through us. But when it passes, that layer, even though it feels like a continuum that just keeps on going and going and going, but there's less energy in that
Behind it.
suppressed reservoir. Yeah. And the corresponding reflection of that process coming back to us is the system around us starting to show itself more obviously. And that's really what's happening. I mean, for instance, little things like the US Navy's blockade, or this whole thing with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Because the thing is, the corporate system, the corporation is the fourth beast, the so-called fourth beast, or this Old Testament stuff. You've got to take all
Hey,
that with a
that
grain.
Old Testament stuff is all coming to happen. So
Yeah.
I'm not poo-pooing the Bible. I'm just not buying
Well,
it all lock, stock, and barrel.
yeah, you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Tom described it as your word book, and he said it's a portion of letting through of truth. So, this is the spirit for everything. Baby bathwater, learning to pick the difference and not just reacting. But to do that, you've got to be in the intensity of thinking it's everything you think it is, but not just believing that either. And that's not easy to do. But the effect is, over time, you start to be able to pick the difference between the baby and the bathwater, because those of the interference have a signature strategic playbook. And once you start to see it, it becomes more obvious. Once you see it, it can't hold you as much either. Once you see the mind control on TV, you can watch the TV without being taken in by it. As soon as you're aware of a darkness and light, as soon as you're aware of it as a thing, it doesn't have the same hold on you anymore. And that's having a big impact. And you're starting to see that play out in the physical. So things like Iran, the corporate system, they control the supply and demand around the world is a big one. So the Strait of Hormuz is a big bottleneck, and whoever controls there's certain key areas around the world geographically, and this has been the same through the ancient world as well. If you control those areas, you control what goes in and out that everybody needs. You can also then control um, how society forms. And that's what the corporate system's been all about. Now, what's playing out? They've Iran was trying to block the Strait of Hormuz completely, and the US Navy, this what's been playing out there has been backing them into a corner, so that now the US Navy will any ship trying to go into a harbor within Iran will be blocked, but everything else can move, which means they can't control the flow of goods and services. They can't control the price of oil like they could. The corporate system is losing control of the foundation layer, and that's very important. So this is the same thing with the media. They're losing control at the foundation layer. What that means is you can't really see the impact of all of this psyop. Above it, it's harder to clock. You've got to have been following this for a while and know how to pick baby bathwater to really map this process out very well. It's easy to kind of fall into nothing's changed because the system above it still operates. Same with the media, but they're being forced into a corner where they have to show themselves because they're fighting for survival. Everything that's been used against you will be turned back to the user. They've been keeping us in fight or flight. Well, what's happening to them? They're being pushed into a situation where they have to fight for survival. And it's literally what's happening. They cannot make this transition with us. Full stop, end of story. And the way Tom described their experience, we would not like to be in their shoes. and they know it. So, but it's all they've got. So
Try
they're showing
telling
you power.
that, try telling that to anybody who's caught up in the politics of the world right now.
And
The
that's the
ones who
problem
are
is
hating Trump or like
being caught
what?
up in the dot,
Caught up
dot,
in
dot in the
the
story.
red and blue. Like, why, how are you even still caught up in that? How do you even think it's still real?
Yeah. But they're, without knowing it, they're being socially engineered into a position where they will receive the reality. And again, Tom, like I've said, he described this process we're going through. It's better for you if you choose it. It's happening anyway, like I've always said. It's just you can either choose to go through the process of being undone enough so that you can receive it cleanly, or you can act out from the inversion and speak from the inversion to that process. That's never happened before. This way of being that they're expressing has always been there, but what hasn't happened before is they've never had a clear force coming the other way challenging it. So they're
Right.
having to edit that in a tangible way that they've never had to before. That's going to repeat on them. Just like the people who went along with fascism in Germany in World War II. They wanted to believe the
Yeah.
lie, even
Yeah.
though there was a tangible force coming back the other way saying this will end in disaster if you don't stop it now. They wanted to ignore that and argue with it, and they wanted to be right. They wanted it to be what they were being sold as because of the
Mhm.
trauma they went through in World War One and post World War One in Germany, all done deliberately to create the reactionaryism that meant fascism had something to hook onto. And there are a lot of people who could see that exact process, and they named it. And that went into these people, whether they liked it or not. So they've got the force that says you're going the wrong way, and they've countered it. And the reality of what happened at the end of World War II, whether you want to argue with the semantics of the Holocaust or not, the fact is the story, what actually transpired is what we're living in now. And the only reason they got away with it because people bought the lie and they had to own it. Once the cover story, the Nazis and the media heads were executed, there was no one left to point the finger at, and they had to own the fact. The only reason they got away with it was because too many people in the public bought the lie.
Have they even owned that fact? Have they even owned it?
Well, a lot of people committed suicide. Yes, because of that. But the ones that were able to move through that process cleanly were the ones who were willing to question it, even if they didn't act on it. They had the question within them, but they knew they had to shut up or they would get kicked out. They had to support their families, but they could see through it. They had to keep quiet. There were a lot of people in Germany who could see what was going on was wrong, but they had to keep quiet because if you spoke up, it wasn't good.
Right.
So the ones that spoke up, they're the heroes because they created this inevitable force that it was all a lie. And you can't, the critical thing is they could not say they didn't know.
Yep.
That's the thing that gets everybody. COVID. No one can say they didn't know. Everyone's got a way of managing it and controlling it so that they can stay the same because they need to stay the same to protect themselves from the trauma they're carrying. They don't want to take responsibility for their own experience. They want to blame. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that with this
Mm-mm.
process. It's one or the other. And uh, they're being steered through this psyop, this counter psyop to that inevitable point. So everything's playing a role, no matter what side of the fence you're on. If you because it's polarity, it's getting to the point now where you're either willfully ignorant of the force coming at you, or you're willing to go with it. But it's one or the other now. That's never happened before in the entire history of the human race. That's never
What
happened.
if what if you're
Not as
willing to
tangible.
go with it?
Well,
You got
we're
some
living it.
serious problems.
That's what we live. Well, I mean, when I say going with the transformation, going,
No, no, looking against it, seeing or going like we're going, okay, what if you're willing to stay oblivious, to force your ignorance, to choose not to see what's happening? Like,
well, that's what a lot of people are doing. The voice inside them knows the truth. The heart always knows. The heart knows. They can't, yeah, but we've added, that's why Tom called this an inversion. And that's why he called the problem the ego that controls, as opposed to the ego in service to who we are, which is pure consciousness. it edits out the heart connection that says this is wrong, you're going the wrong way, limits the voice to the point where you don't even hear it or feel it. But there's a consequence for that too, because you don't feel anything. You've got to keep running around in this
That's what I
mental.
say about my family. They're allergic to love. They
Yeah,
are
and
allergic.
that's
They don't even know what real love is. They're all walking around performing love.
yeah, it's a thing you do.
It's
You
a
do
thing you
being the right
do. And
person.
because I'm
But
not doing anymore, I'm not worthy of their love or affection. It's like, what is
see,
even
the heart's just saying
happening?
you're facing the wrong direction, you're going the wrong way in inverted commas, but the ego that controls hears that as you're wrong, and they can't admit that because it feels like I'm wrong, but I've been doing so much to be right, the right kind of person that is worthy of love, dot, dot, dot. So there's a lot of investment. People's whole identity is caught up in the trauma and managing it. So to see the real source of the trauma isn't what they think, the victim perpetrator. It's this third party that's universal to everybody, including who they see as the perpetrator. They have to forgive the perpetrator because they realize they are the perpetrator. That's what's coming for them. They're no
Oh,
different.
yeah.
So
I've
the
had to spend
compassion,
7 years forgiving myself.
right? So that's playing out. And it's been very hard on a lot of us because it's you got nowhere to go but to sit in the
Nowhere to
feeling and
go.
the story, and you can't unask the question, "What's the truth?"
Right.
At this level, you can't go back. So it's having its way with us, and it's a tough one. But we're at it. A lot of us are being brought to the point where we can see the victim in the perpetrator. That's the big impact of less and less residual energy being held back. It goes from being a lot of emotional trauma suppressed, a lot of our emotional energy is suppressed. It's fixed into a form that says this is wrong or trauma. A story does that. It's really just energy moving, but our mind puts a story around it and we experience it like it's true. So that has to be shut out. But once you ask the truth, you can't do that. But the real thing is, it's just love. It's not what we think it is, the way Ramana Maharshi put it. um, they're not feelings, they're thoughts masquerading as feelings, fear, anxiety, depression. They're all ideas about an experience. So we experience that moment like it's true of our idea. That's the problem, how we think of everything. That's why this process has been managed and controlled. The controlled demolition is playing out the way it is because things aren't what we think, including us. Everything isn't what we think. That's extremely disorienting. And if you go too far too fast, it's too much. But
That's
too
what
many
I
people,
did.
exactly. Well, yeah, but you recognize the impact of that question was at the core of your being, and a lot of people did, and that was our purpose. And now the ripple effect of that moment has been playing out through the story that you have, so that you can hear what I just said, basically.
Mm. Yeah,
Think
yeah.
about the sacred cow story that a lot of people have about who the perpetrator is. I mean, it's pretty hard to let go of that. You're a victim and they're the perpetrator. And it's tough
Yeah,
to,
I think that is one of my greatest gifts is being able to see the victim in absolutely everyone, no matter how they've wronged me or others or the world. No matter, I see right through to their own trauma, to their own pain, to
yeah.
their the origin of their poor behaviors or poor treatment of others.
Mm.
I think that's a hell of a gift that I carry.
Yeah, well, that's the truth too. The way the Arcturians told me, love and light, brother, sister, you're not the enemy is the thing you say to yourself while you
Yeah.
feel with every core of your being that
Yeah.
it's the opposite. You
Right.
also,
Right.
and that's what I say, we can't go around it. We've got to let all those feelings be there without
Yeah.
just being hooked in by them wholesale. And that's
Yep.
what's destroying the world. That's what's destroying the false reality. It, there are more and more people that aren't just hooked in by it. Like what
I guess.
Ramanas would say
Go
is
ahead.
you can't control life. You can only control where you put your attention. And that's the impact of mind control. These experiences hit us, we interpret them a certain way, our attention just goes off into the story. That's it. But there's this
Yeah.
third option. Pull your attention back to the question, what's the truth? Let all of that still be there because you can't change it, but you're recognizing it isn't what you think, or it may not be what you think. And that that destabilizes. It's not as rigid anymore.
Nothing is what we think. I think I'm just exhausted. I am.
Hmm.
And then like you would come with, well, who's exhausted? And I would say, well, fuck you, Gareth. But I know what you mean. But I know what you mean. Like, who's
Yeah.
exhausted, Katie? Who's really tired?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still the physical Katie having this physical experience, and I am tired and I am impatient and
Hmm.
I miss my family and I want to love everyone. I leave the house and I love everyone I see. I throw wads of cash at the homeless people and I give them hugs and shake their hands. And here I am, like saying all the good shit you do. You know what I mean? Like sometimes those deeds should be go unspoken and all of that. And majority they do. But like I spread the love everywhere because I can't spread it with my own family because they're not open to it.
Can't receive it.
But that's
Yeah.
what I want. I just want to love. I want all, it sounds so simplistic, but I just want us all to just have some relief and just
And
love.
it is coming again. The link between the court case in Holland and what's playing out in the US and in the Middle East is it's all connected. It's 'cause it's all the same group with the same motivation. But
It's so funny
COVID blows the
too.
lid.
I know. It's so funny too. I see all these, the story in Denmark and the story or Holland. I see what's happening in Israel and, the politics around the Strait of Hormuz and all this. And then I think to myself, is any of it true? Is any of it real? Like, I can't, that, like, if I'm willing to think any news story ever isn't true unless I see it, I have to think about that with alternative news as well. So I'm not saying that stuff's not happening. I'm just saying it's one of these weird things where to avoid hypocrisy, I have to be willing for none of it to be true. Alternative, mainstream doesn't matter. None of it.
Yeah, again, that's when you're willing for none of it to be true, the real truth, the part of it that is true can really show itself.
Yeah.
But again, that goes against everything we've been programmed to live from. And it's very disorienting. And when you got these intense emotions coming up,
Yep.
yeah, then
Very intense. Very intense.
yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, are you good? Do you feel
yeah,
complete with this talk?
I do. Yes, we could go on forever, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, I just everything feels very intense right now. I'm at the verge of tears. I think I tried to sleep away half my day. I'm just kind of loving my cats and my mom's up in Maine and I'm
Yeah,
just alone and having some crunchy words with people here and there and no words from the people I want words with and it's just all very
yeah,
very intense today. So I wanted to
yeah.
talk to you. So thanks.
So me too. Well, Mercury retrograde, and there's a something called a void moon, and all these oppositions this month. First three
Oh
weeks, it
yeah.
should ease up. It should ease up at
Lori
the last week, but
Lori texted me earlier. He said, what did he say? He said 14 squares and oppositions in the astrology today. Most he's ever seen is 10. So the astrology, whether you believe it or not, the truth doesn't give a shit. The
no,
astrology affects everything, who we are, how we are, where we are.
yeah,
Um, it affects everything.
everything.
So, I don't know. It's like one of those things where I'm not going to blame the stars for all my poor behavior and my situation in life, but I sure am going to kind of relax into the stars and
That's
go,
the Yeah.
okay,
It
thank
serves a
God.
purpose. It's
Yeah.
yeah, but in
Yeah.
the background, that's
It
once you
can
recognize that,
relieve.
that's always there. Yeah. So your
Yes.
motivations, your protection in all things is what Tom said. It comes in here. You want,
Yeah.
you're willing to go with it. It doesn't, then you can have all the same old reactions and stuff going on, but you've got this big picture context where you know it's
Yeah.
serving a purpose too.
Right.
And you're willing to let
Right.
that purpose come to you.
Right.
That's You may not
Right.
connect with it at that level yet, but it's coming.
All right. I love you. Thank you.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.